Hi, all. This is Dr. J streaming live from Long Island, New York, where the weather didn't feel like spring. It felt more like, well, maybe very early spring. It certainly didn't feel like we're heading into May. It was high of about 52 degrees, 53 degrees, somewhere around that. The winds were annoying, to say the least, especially in the morning. Got a little better later on. The sun did shine. But um, Wall Street didn't fare much better than the weather today. And I don't like the way things close. And I don't like the after hours. So hence the name of my vlog tonight has some pessimism built in. Tech wreck or tech debacle, question mark. We're going to look at AMD. We're going to look at WDC, Western Digital, the hard disk drive maker, who had terrible earnings after the close. After a big slide from, I think, 80 to 50, something like that. And we're going to look at the chart of Western Digital, see where support is. I do like the fact that it wasn't down tremendously after hours, only down about 4%. And I say only because Google, the best of the FANGs, I thought, or one of the best, gave back 7% after hours after running up a little pre-earnings. Needless to say, earnings were not good. Ad revenues missed. So where does that leave us? Well, I wasn't too happy the way the Dow and the S&P closed the day, and I was less happy after the bad earnings. Why didn't I like the way they closed the day? I've seen red candles. I've seen big red candles, and it didn't get me as annoyed as this because we made an intraday high in the S&P only to close in a gravestone doji, and the Dow correspondingly closed in a gravestone doji. True, the upper shadow was very small, especially in the Dow, which is some comfort. But the Dow and gravestone dojis have been an unbelievable predictor of doom. And I will go over the charts showing you other examples of gravestone dojis and the Dow. So it doesn't, of course, mean just because of some past performance doesn't necessarily get reflected in future results. We all know that. But it's still looking a little ominous to Dr. J. I sure hope the markets aren't topping. I want to see that sis boom bar rally well into the end of the year. That's what I'm still hoping for. On the bright side, the S&P futures are flat, considering the bad earnings reports. I think down $1.75 last summer. And it's now 8.12, so that's not bad at all. The market the futures buyers have had time to digest the results. So maybe the markets will be able to shrug this off. I don't know. Certainly not happy about it. In any event, let's get to the charts, do your own due diligence, as always. And my opinions are strictly my own and do not constitute investment advice. Seek an investment advisor if you choose to follow some of my brilliant ideas. Some of them are brilliant, but some of them are far less than brilliant. It looks like Brooklyn may have been right when she told me she was nervous about earnings, and I poo-pooed it. I'm not poo-pooing Brooklyn anymore. If you get nervous, I get nervous. Let's take a look at, of course, Intel was a prelude to possible weakness in the earnings season. Semis are usually weak this quarter, I believe. So maybe it's nothing too much to get excited about. We'll analyze it a little more with the charts. I have a lot of charts to show you, so I'll try to go through quickly, including some of the ones I mentioned, all of the indices. Okay, let's get to it one at a time. Apple first. We're gonna take a look at all the FANG stocks. Apple, last I checked, is an A, FAANG, so it is a FANG stock. It's also slow loading because I have a ton of windows open. And Verizon and I don't get along when I have too many windows open. All right, let's see what happens. If I have to close some, I'll close some. Just type it in again. Maybe I'll have to do that. Give it another minute. Okay, here we go. By the way, after hours, this was in sympathy, I guess, to Google, down $1 and change. I don't know what Apple has to do with Google, but I guess when it comes to the world of tech, everything is related. I certainly don't think it has much to do with Western Digital or Intel for that matter. So let's take a look at the chart of Apple. If it decides to load. I mean, 210 looks like Apple was knocking on the door of 210. Now it may be knocking on the door of 200. So let's take a look at the chart. I know it's a little slow in loading, but patience, we'll get there. And then once I start closing windows, as I show you Apple, I'll close it and so on. It should speed things up. All right, so Apple also closed in a gravestone doji today. Not good. The high was 206, the low 203.86. The open 204.40, the close 204.61, 21 pennies. So even though it was a green day, it was hardly, it was barely green, and it definitely was a gravestone doji. I'm just gonna X this one out, I think, because it's giving me a little trouble. It's been loading and reloading and loading and reloading. So it's still following its upward trend line. It has that as support. I do believe that it may challenge that upper trend line and give back to about the 200 level. And depending on the rest of the market, maybe it turns around there and makes another run at 210. In any event, I think Apple is dependent on the rest of the market as much as the rest of the market is dependent on Apple, if that makes any kind of sense. There's a symbiotic relationship between the NASDAQ, the Qs, the Dow, and Apple. I think as Apple goes, so go the markets. As the markets go to a certain extent, so goes Apple. Let's see how successful we are loading Amazon. I'm not sure, again, why Amazon was down after hours, other than the fact that after being down during the day, 0.63%, down another 0.7% after hours. I know it's a FANG, and it's in sympathy to Google, and it's in sympathy to WDC, but again, I don't see the relationship, other than the fact that maybe just had a huge run and needed to give back some. Let's take a look at that huge run. Let's take a look at support. This has been a super performing stock that lifted the Qs to all-time highs, that helped lift the S&P 500 to all-time highs. So Amazon, we don't like weakness in our cleanup hitter, using a baseball analogy. So Amazon is definitely a heavy-duty slugger. It's a Peter Alonso of the Mets, Peter Alonso, for the Yankees, Aaron Judge, and so on and so forth. It's a heavy hitter. And it had a relatively small red candle today. Nothing to get excited about at all. Didn't give back too much. The candle on Friday was a very strong candle. So a little give back is normal, and a give back to this area here at 1925 is also normal. That's where it closed after hours. So not only normal, but expected at this point after this tremendous run up that it's had. So I'm not too fretful about it. What I am thinking though is it may actually test the low of this Friday candle, which would be upsetting. 1898, another 40 points down from the close. That would sting. That would be a drag on the Qs. That would be a drag on the entire market. So let's hope that Amazon pretty much bottoms for the day tomorrow at 1925 and reverses direction, the strong market leader, the strong cleanup batter that it actually is. So again, how Amazon goes, so goes the market. How the market goes, so goes Amazon to a certain extent. Just like Apple. There's that very close relationship between the NASDAQ 100, Apple, and Amazon, and the rest of the market for that matter. Facebook had a good day. I don't know how it did after hours. I think it gave back very little because maybe, just maybe, if some of the ad revenue that Google suffered was actually taken by Facebook. So maybe that's one of the reasons it didn't give back that much after hours. 80 pennies, 0.41%. That's like nothing. And it had a pretty good day today, closing above resistance and looking like it's ready to make an all-time high at 2050. So not 2050. What's the all-time high for Amazon? I have to check that. 2050 is Amazon. 2050 is Amazon. I'm looking at Facebook now. So let me look at the weekly, get that all-time high. The all-time high looks like 218. Not that far away. I mean, it's made a tremendous comeback. So this was a day, I think there was a lot of negativity on 7/23. Hearings, they're going to lock up Zuckerberg. I don't know, all kinds of stuff. So that was some of the reason for the initial drop. And it came all the way down to a low of 123. Look at the comeback it's made, furious. So Facebook is on a tear. It looks like a stock that doesn't want to give much back. I think it'll be good tomorrow, good the rest of the week, regardless of the rest of the market. It is on a tear. So good for you, Facebook. You might help save the onslaught a little bit. Let's look at the daily again. Okay, so we're looking at support Today we got as low as 190. I would think that would be support for tomorrow, considering the solid close and the fact that it gave back very little after hours. So I'm liking Facebook for tomorrow. And for the rest of the week, I'm thinking it's going to make new highs. And I'm thinking that for Amazon as well, and Apple. So tomorrow may be a down day, and maybe the market can shrug it off. Of course, when I show you the gravestone dojis, that could put a little more doubt in your minds. And you know what? I'm gonna before I do Google and Netflix, I'll do the Dow and the S&P, the two charts that worry me the most. And first, let's get the full screen on the Dow. Still slow unloading. Okay, full screen. 26. What's the all-time high again? 26,951. It should have no trouble, even if it pulls back 1,000 points from 26.5 to 25.5. It still should have no problem taking out 26,951. I wouldn't like it, but it's possible because here it is, the gravestone doji. Now, again, it doesn't have much of an upper shadow, so that's good. Because when it's had a bigger upper shadow, like here on 225, gave back 1,000 points. When it had, when it had a big upper shadow here at 12.1, it gave back several thousand points, right? Yeah, all the way down to the low here of 21.8, something like that. So it gave back from 21.8 to 24.8, 3,000 points off of this gravestone doji. Now, there have been other gravestone dojis which either basically ignored them or given back very little. So it doesn't always happen. I'm looking. It's most dangerous after a long run-up, which is what we've had. So the gravestone doji worries me. There's another gravestone doji, high of 26,951 to a low of 24.1. That's a pretty big sell-off again. Holy mackerel. Beware the gravestone doji. But again, you see you have a bigger upper shadow. So let's hope the fact that we don't have that bigger upper shadow, we have a tiny upper shadow, that this gravestone doji won't do any more harm than a few hundred points. I don't like the gravestone doji. I'm pessimistic short term on the Dow, which means I'm pessimistic short term on the Qs, the diamonds, the IWM, all of them. But in particular, the S&P and the Dow, that made the S&P is the other index besides the Qs that just made a new all-time high. So let's take a look at the S&P. Okay, the S&P, it's 52-week range, a high of 29.49. And that happened today. So it made a new all-time high today. Let's see how it ended today. Well, what do you know? It ended in a gravestone doji. So after this tremendous long run-up, to have a gravestone doji scares me a little bit. A little bit. I mean, I'm not petrified, but I'm a little bit scared. If the Dow gives back 1,000 points, I wouldn't be shocked if this gave back 100 points. And 100 points would put it right about at the 50-day, 28.39. So 28.39, where the 50-day is now, might be a target on any pullback for the S&P 500. I don't consider the situation ominous. I don't think we're on the verge of a tech wreck or a market wreck or a serious market reversal, but we could certainly be in for a correction, a small correction in my opinion, but nevertheless, downward movement as opposed to upward movement. I just don't like the charts on the Dow and the S&P just based on one candle. Enough that I think you're going to get some kind of pullback along with the bad earnings on Western Digital and Google. So tech wreck, definitely not. Market reversal, definitely not. Not definitely, but I don't think so. Pullback, probably. Hope not. But you have markets go up and markets go down. We talked about this. They don't just go in one direction. You want to look at the rut? Why not look at the rut? The rut is equivalent to the IWM. And this is furthest removed from making an all-time high. It's about 6% away at the close. It had a much better looking candle than the S&P and the Dow. Much better looking. And it's been one of the strongest indices this year and for the last year. So in particular year to date, it's done very well. And I think only second only to the Qs, which has outperformed all the indices. So I'm looking for maybe less hurt on the IWM than on the Dow and the S&P, because it's been a better performer. It's a broader index, going to get less hurt by bad earnings on Google and so on. So Russell doesn't figure to get hit as bad in my mind. If indeed there is a market pullback. Nothing is for certain. Dr. J is never saying for certainty anything, because when it comes to the market, the only thing predictable is that it's unpredictable. Google up 1540 during the day. Going into earnings, there was a lot of optimism. I feel terrible for the bulls on Google, down 7%. Yucky poo. You like my yucky poo? When I get disgusted, I say, yucky poo. I think it's a very good thing to say when disgusted, yucky poo. It's better than cuss words. We don't like cuss words. At least Dr. J doesn't like them. Not that I have anything against them, I just don't like to use them, especially not in a public forum. So yucky poo is all you're going to hear from me. What a beautiful, beautiful up move Google has had, though. It's come from the lows of 1224, the day before Christmas. Low of 970. Wow. So giving back even 7%, even 100 points, is not that serious, really. Even if it goes down to 1186, which looks like support. Let me draw that in. I like a horizontal line. It would have worked with any line, but horizontal line. Okay, so what I'm looking for is a low of 1159 as support. Something like that, a little bit higher actually, maybe. No, 1159. It could come down to the test at 1159 level. It also has support, perhaps, at the 50 because it has often found support at the 50. So if it finds support at the 50, if the 50 is in the upward direction, if they meet rather quickly, they would meet at about 1194, would be my guess. And that's enough of a pullback. I mean, after hours 1196 doesn't have to get there during the trading day just because it's there now. So even if it does, if it closes no worse than 1196, that might just be enough, a one-day pullback or a two-day pullback, and then resume its uptrend. I would love that. Let's take a look at Netflix. Netflix, never my favorite of the FANGs, arguably my least favorite. I always feared stock companies like Disney would come in and put the hurt on them. All right, so let's take a look. Despite the Disney hit, it's still very close to its highs. Let's see. Let's look at the weekly. Want to see where it is with respect to its all-time high. Okay, the all-time high looks like it was put in June, and that was 423. Looks like it's got a ways to go to get there. I think it's going to find support. I think it'll be down, but in a downturn, I think it will find support, maybe at the 50, depending on how severe the downturn is. 340, 341, something like that. So that wouldn't be terrible. That would be 30 points. That would be less than 10% down. So if the market corrects, if the Dow corrects 1,000 points, if the S&P corrects 100 points, then Netflix should correct 30 points. That would be my figure. Okay, so I'm not calling for a tremendous pullback. I'm not really calling for a tech wreck. I'm just calling for a pullback, a normal, everyday, vanilla pullback. So that's not too much, I don't think. On 3,000 points, if you give back 100, that's nothing, right? A couple of hundred even. All right, let's take a look at AMD. AMD was hurt after market, down another maybe 15 cents because of Google and because of WDC. So like the rest of the market, and it's due to have earnings tomorrow. Earnings tomorrow. What a day to have earnings. Now, it could be that the market sells off tomorrow, this sells off with it, and let's say it can hold 27. If it can hold 27 and the earnings are better than expected, I think the shorts are in trouble. On the other hand, if the earnings and the outlook is not as expected, then look out below. So I think volatility is the name of the game for AMD. It will either hit Dr. J's target of 30, or it might hit as low as 22, in which case I won't be happy. But I'm in it to win it. You got to be in it to win it. So I chose not to sell going into earnings. Had I known about the WDC report, earnings report, I might have felt differently, but que sera, sera. We'll just see how it plays out. And Dr. J isn't going to lose any sleep over this one. I might lose money, but I'm not going to lose any sleep. WDC, let's look at the culprit itself. Ooh, nasty fall. Fall from grace. Fall from a high of 106, 107. Put in a low day before Christmas of 33. Yikes. Yikes, that's about 70% drop. That's a huge drop. Came back nicely, but not as nicely as WDC's shareholders would have liked. Looks like it made a high here of 55.54. Already gave back 10%. Well, what's it going to give back? Maybe another 10%? We have a gravestone doji for the close. It closed at 50.31. Let me just reload this. I don't think I'm getting the latest numbers. After hours down 5% to $48. I tell you, that's not terrible. Not terrible. It's close to the 7% Google is down, but Google sounds worse, down 90 points. I know everything is relative to price. Will it find support? I'd like to see it find support on Friday's low of 48.80. I mean, I doubt it. I think it'll go below that, but that would be a great if it bounced off 48.80, would show great strength in the markets, great strength ultimately in Western Digital. More likely it's going to come down and test this 44.76 level. I don't think it's going to go all the way down to test $35. I doubt it. So 44.76 would be a buy at this point. From $50, if you can get another 10%, I think Western Digital might be worth its stab. It's not going to go down forever. It's too good a company. All right, of course, it's seasonally weak quarter, so let's not overreact. And on the other hand, we don't like hard drive sales slowing because it implies business is spending less PCs are being sold. Maybe storage is changing somewhat to cloud, more and more people using cloud storage, more and more businesses using cloud storage than hard disk drives. I'm not quite sure what the cloud storage looks like these days. And I'm not sure if Western Digital is involved in that market. I really don't know enough about the fundamentals. But I hope I gave you an idea of what to expect for tomorrow. I expect some rockiness, volatility, some weakness. I expect a lower opening and hopefully a better close than, let's say, where we are at 2, 3 o'clock, maybe the last hour, a rally back. And I'm hoping that we get minimal damage from all this. Max pain, I think, is like 1,000 points on the Dow, which is what, from 26,500. It's not even 4%, right? What is that right? 1,000 points, 26,500, 2650 is 10%, 265 is 1%. Yeah, not even 4%. So that would be the biggest pullback that I see. Hopefully not even. That's about it. So this has been Dr. J, streaming live from Long Island, New York. And keep the faith, because the markets go up, the markets go down. So if we happen to have a down day tomorrow, don't jump off the roof. And even if we go down a lot, don't jump off the roof. Please, nobody jump. It's not going to be that bad. And it'll get better before it actually collapses. I'm pretty sure the market will make new highs in all four indices. We're not going to have a bifurcated market where the S&P and the NASDAQ 100 are at all-time highs, and the Dow and the RUT never get there. That's not going to happen, in my opinion. This has been Dr. J, streaming live from Long Island, New York. I want to say shalom, sayonara, au revoir, arrivederci, ciao, hasta mañana. Please subscribe to this vlog, tell your friends about me, share the link, etc.